Okay. Hey guys, my name is Veer Dosi and I am a 15-year-old hustler, entrepreneur and innovator. I work in startups on projects, upskilling and discovering myself. To talk a little about my startup experience, I am the co-founder at EdPal, project manager and or builder at ThrustX, and the founder and CEO at Mailbox. EdPal is a startup revolutionizing productivity for teenagers. Mailbox is an email client that is AI powered. I am also an AI enthusiast and I constantly look up for new AI technologies like machine learning and natural language processing. I am also currently doing some courses on that and building projects for the same. I have worked in teams to build cool stuff, took part in hackathons, won in startup competitions, experienced the power of connections, and have done a lot of MVP stuff. You can learn more about what I'm doing on my LinkedIn, which is https://linkedin.com/in/Veer Dosi. You can search it. You can also search for my name in the LinkedIn search bar. Today, we are here to talk about MVP building and testing. Validation is one of the most important aspects as an entrepreneur and is extremely important in every stage, and so is user testing. Because all of us here are already entrepreneurs, including me, MVP building and testing allows us to validate our ideas and check that if we build the product, will the customers come. This is an essential step for a startup success in whichever sector. By definition, MVP is a minimum viable product, is a version of a product with just enough features to be usable by early customers who can then provide feedback for future product development. This means that an MVP has to undergo constant iterations depending on target consumer feedbacks and is not the final product. I'd like to highlight this line, so I'll repeat. This means that an MVP has to undergo constant iterations depending on target consumer feedbacks and is not the final product. I have myself built MVPs and early stage apps through no code and design tools, and I found it super helpful and extremely advantageous when testing it with potential users. So, without a lot of fluff, let's dive straight into how to do this. I would start by outlining the problem statement and how the technology provides value. For the next step, we have to do a little bit of research on what tool would be best for our prototype and then our MVP. We have to consider different touch points like fidelity, it should be web or app based, whether we are good at design or not, and so on and so forth. We also have to decide one major thing, that is whether this is a website, this is a web app, or this is an application, depending upon our interactions with users, our research, and our assumptions. I am also checking out new tools constantly, and I do so like two in the morning and two in the evening, and have used a bunch of design and tools for testing out ideas like Figma, Glide App, Wix, Google Sites, etc. In this episode, I'm going to outline the process of building and testing. So first of all, we decide on our app design and stuff, preferably on paper if you have good drawing skills, which I did not have. So I'd say to start off with Figma. Figma has a low learning curve and it really helps, and it kind of feels like you're drawing through a mouse. But a better option can also be Marvel Pop, which is Marvel prototyping on paper, which is quite good and gives off some good prototyping options. If you have done so, I'd recommend listing out a list of core features in that particular app and how do you think that you would present them to yourself based on assumptions and survey results. You put that list beside you and figure out all the design aspects of every core feature. Mind you, I'm talking only of the quintessential features of the app and not the extras or add-ons. For example, if you are making LinkedIn, then some core feature would be messaging, networking, posts, and so on and so forth. A settings page or an account feature is important in whatever app you're trying to build, and there should definitely be a settings or an account feature because it makes the app look more realistic. Now, an extra feature would be LinkedIn stories or putting up an image as a post or something like that. Never try and put all the features at once, but keep adding features consistently and testing it with the user. If there's one thing you take from this talk, it would be this: to never try and put all the features at once, but keep adding features consistently and testing it with the user. Next comes the stage wherein we actually start building a design focused and a clickable MVP, and which would include some functionality, some UX UI stuff, and some basis for further user validation using something. One of the best ways to create a working app, if you have uh, like you have beginner spreadsheet skills, would be using Glide app, which allows you to easily build an app using Google Sheets. It is relatively new but works quite well, and I myself used it to build a couple of apps which have worked just fine. It is really good as an MVP version 1 and could be used. Another alternative could be directly use Figma as a clicker version with buttons and all. You could also use some other provider like Bubble, which has a high learning curve, and I would not recommend it that much because it is a little advanced. But in your later pre-product cycle, it is good enough. This is our MVP version 1, as I said, and it represents a better outline of how our product works. There are other tools available too, like InVision, which is really good and essentially free. So it works really well. To make sure our design is good enough, we have to learn some basics of design thinking, which is easily available. There are many open source courses. Just take a minor course of a week or so and just get of how design works and so on and so forth. I would also say to start looking for design interns now, because if you do not have as good a design skills, then you might need them in your MVP version 1, wherein we need a clickable MVP. In every stage, in prototyping on paper, MVP version 1, MVP version 2, you have to continuously test it with the user. You have to go to them, ask them what they think about this, what they would change, and how they feel, how the apps look and feel, and the features work, and everything else. We build it out, and this is not the final product, so minor stuff can be ignored, like the extras or add-ons, and can be taken care of in the next stage. It will be the MVP version 2. This is one of the final testings of our app and website. For our websites, I would say that we use Figma or Wix. We build a design in Figma or something like that. If you want to build it in a landing page style, I would say to use Notion. I am a huge Notion fan, and it literally works for anything and everything you want to build, wherein you're providing info to the user and trying to get as many people to sign up. I definitely recommend it for everything you do on your startup journey. Back to MVP from this Notion fan stuff. Now we are moving to improvise your MVP a bit. This would be the MVP version 2. If you think that switching platforms would be best, then do so. This is the time when you do that. I would recommend moving to Bubble. I'd recommend moving to Adalo or Framer for apps, and Bubble would be nice too. And Webflow would be best for building web apps, though again it has a really high learning curve, but helps to maintain a website in the initial stage of your venture. And it has a freemium plan, so that's good too. If you want to continue with Figma, it's great. There's no problem. To move forward with Glide app, I would say to move to a paid plan or get at least 15 referrals. I got it, and I got some extra rows and sheets and that, and it was pretty good. And one more thing that you can do, you can use Adobe XD or Figma. Adobe XD is best, but it is not exactly cloud-based. So that would be a thing. And Canva would be good too if you don't want to put a lot of design, but I definitely do not recommend this because we have to put a lot of design and make this as close to the real app as possible. And this here, you would need the design interns. You add all the primary features, do some major changes if required based on your user feedback in the above step, and or do the minor change stuff just to make your application or web app look better and more attractive. To use a lot of services together, like you have a newsletter sign up, then you have uh, it can be anything else of that sort, and you can all combine that, and you have to send that data to a Google Sheet, and then you have to send emails for that to MailChimp. You can all combine it into one zap. And I also use Airtable for most of my data works and Notion for really everything. Now for talking about some major tools, there are a bunch of tools available, but there are some good tools that would go good. There's Figma. As I said, it is really good in almost every step. There's Glide app, there's InVision, there's Bubble, there's Sheet to Site. Sheet to Site is kind of like Glide app for building websites. Then there's Adalo, there's Framer. So for interactive mockups, I would say to use Framer. It is really good in the MVP version 2, and I'm using it currently myself. Then there's Squarespace, Webflow, Notion, as I said, Canva, Airtable for database web apps, because now you can create web apps in Airtable and it looks pretty good. You can try that. And Coda. Coda is documents as powerful as apps. So if you have a really a simple application that doesn't need a lot of hardcore programming and anything of that sort, then you can go with Coda. It's like kind of like Notion, but it is improvised and more interactive, and so on and so forth. I'll attach all of these links below, whatever links I've referred to in my talk, and so you don't have to worry of where you will find them. Now for some design related talks for MVPs, I've already elaborated a lot on the importance of design and how this really improves your overall app. There are three major paths available. There's high fidelity, there's low fidelity, and then on paper. To define these in simple terms, on paper is a design that you draw, as the name suggests, on paper using a pen and or a pencil. Low fidelity is when it allows user and mouse interactions, and low fidelity is a design prototype and it usually does not allow clicking or functional stuff. High fidelity is when it allows user and mouse interactions. And if you're just starting out, I'd recommend following the path of paper, then low fidelity, then high fidelity. And but if you have a crystal clear idea in mind of how your app is going to work, by a crystal clear idea, I mean how the app is going to look, how is it going to feel, how it functions, where all the features are going to be and everything, then you can directly start off with the high fidelity. It all depends on what stage you are in the user testing journey and how this affects your outcome. Again, you have to test every change and every iteration that you make in your app with the user. What comes next is as important in this entire process, and taking care of this is really important. I would again say that MVP is never the final app and should never be used as a launch app. It needs a lot of important things even after you have thought that you have put everything. And it can always be used as a basis for your app production for designers and developers. So that way it is really helpful for the team because they better understand the app and they can build it better. This makes MVP a really important thing, both for your consumer and for the team. Next, you have to focus a lot on marketing the app and creating constant hype for it while you build the MLP. Now, MLP is the minimum lovable product and it's kind of an early launch product for your customer where you take some really important feedback from your customer. Again, the design people, the design interns, mentors, or whatever, they are going to really help in this stage too. It is something that a customer should desire and focuses a lot more on creating a truly unique and a wonderful user experience. For learning more about this, I will attach some links to learn more about how MLP is different and what all steps are there. So you needn't worry about that. But to give you a basic outline, I have already mentioned, it is an improvised version, improved version of your high fidelity MVP. I have to attach many links. All right. This brings us to the awkward end of our talk, and I hope that you gathered some really good insights from this. I would love to learn from all of you of how this helped you in the comments, and be sure to send me a connection request on LinkedIn, which is https://linkedin.com/in/Veer Dosi, or you can enter my name in the search bar if you have any questions or you just want to talk about no-code MVPs. There are a bunch of ways to create MVPs, but no code is the best because it saves a lot of time, energy, and money because you don't need any developers for that. They don't need to discuss it with you, and it is essentially best for you while you are still in this early stage and want to test your app. I would like to thank the Finding Your Inner Entrepreneur team for giving me a chance for this episode and for giving back to the community my learnings and mostly everything I know about MVPs. I might have missed some stuff, but I have absolutely given you all a lot for this time. I am also constantly checking out new apps. Like this morning, I checked out Milano, I checked out Sheet to Site, and some more, and putting them up as and when. So be sure to follow me too. Bye, guys, and hope you remain well and be safe, be secure, do not go out. And yeah, thank you.